Holy crap! You are creepy as shit.
Have you ever wanted to be different? Have you ever wanted to make your voice heard? Have you ever wanted to be yourself and stand out in a crowd? Well, too bad, because Debbie Ryan did it first, 11 years ago, and probably better than you could have done it anyway. I've always liked how Disney Channel movies always ask such thought-provoking questions. A movie like Disney Zombies begs the simple question like, what is it like to be black? Whereas Radio Rebel asks more important questions like, what is it like to be a pretty, timid, white teenage schoolgirl who is liked by everyone but loved by even more people as a popular radio show host? Important questions like that. Radio Rebel was released on February 12th, 2012. To some generally mixed reviews, it pulled in a solid 4.3 million viewers, but whether or not the viewer actually liked the movie they watched is pretty up in the air. A 61% audience score is still pretty low for Rotten Tomatoes. This movie is actually an adaptation of a book that came out 4 years prior called Shrinking Violet, written by Danielle Joseph. The premise stayed largely the same, but there were some changes. For instance, Tara's name was originally Teresa in the book, as well as her radio name being Sweet Tea in the book as well. I'm kinda glad they changed that one. I am also getting my information from this from the Wikipedia page, by the way. Personally, I don't really want to read a 14-year-old YA novel to make a video about a Debbie Ryan movie, so sue me. Something I do want to touch on about this movie is it actually had a pretty lengthy soundtrack though. Most of these songs don't actually play in the film in significant or really noticeable ways. In fact, it's so insignificant that I'm not even gonna touch on them, but I will say that you probably do remember the song We Got the Beat performed by Debbie Ryan, because that was literally everywhere when this movie came out. But unfortunately, there really isn't too much Radio Rebel lore for us to delve into. But if you're anything like me, you probably forgot that Jessie was actually airing before this movie even came out. So it's kind of weird to watch Debbie Ryan go from playing a loudmouth Texan girl to a subtle and shy Seattle City girl. I will say though, she does do both roles quite well, so I am kind of impressed. Radio Rebel opens up with a broadcast from Radio Rebel herself, where she talks about how being different is cool and swag. She's actually talking like she stole her personality from Stella in Lemonade Mouth. This isn't technically important, but this same extra is seen 3 times in this 1-minute long opening. It's pretty easy to notice because this person has bright blue hair and probably matching pronouns as well. The first character we meet is Audrey Sharma, played by Serena Palmer. She's Radio Rebel's biggest wannabe and best friend of this movie's main character, Tara Adams. Tara is played by Debbie Ryan and is a shy, soft-spoken girl who couldn't even possibly be Radio Rebel, so don't bother thinking that. Tara also has crippling anxiety and lacks the ability to talk to anybody but Audrey and their 2 other besties for the resties. First up is Barry, and secondly his twin brother, Larry. I don't want to be mean to these guys because they are fun characters. Unfortunately for them, they're kinda creepy as shit. Their whole thing is that they're obsessed with Radio Rebel, more specifically finding out exactly who she is. That in and of itself wouldn't be so weird if Larry didn't insist that she was exactly 5'6" and a redhead, and if Barry didn't insist that she was his soulmate and a blonde. Seriously, does this movie have only like 4 extras? Why is this person everywhere? Next we're introduced to Stacey DeBane, played by Merritt Patterson. She's your classic mean girl. She's so popular she quite literally has boys lining up to go to prom with her. Not physically, but I imagine she has one of those ticket kiosks that they use at delis somewhere in the school. We meet her secretary, Kim. Their relationship is a lot like Homelander and Ashley in season 3 of The Boys. Wow, I reference that show a lot, don't I? Regardless, Stacey is the Ellen DeGeneres of the high school, and doesn't let anybody but Kim even look at her. She also holds so much power that she can get the principal to take away Audrey and Tara's fake-ass iPods. This is actually super illegal, by the way, making this the movie's first radio crime. In the next scene, we're introduced to Gabe, the leader of a band called the G's. That's spelled with 4 G's, by the way. We're also introduced to Gavin, who is also a member of the G's, and someone who is seemingly trying to get into Stacey DeBane's sequins-covered underwear. Their plan is to become rock stars, and what the hell? Why is this person here again? I'm sure if I wanted to, I could find all the other extras they used probably 20 times. It's just easy to spot this one because they look like ninja Fortnite Blevins in 2020. We learn that Tara has a crush on Gavin. Also, this is drama class? I've never seen a drama class take place in a regular-ass classroom. Pretty sure this is a class that requires less writing and considerably more floor space. The teacher asks the students to raise their hand to give suggestions, and of course she chooses the one person who didn't raise her hand. I always hated when teachers pulled this Regardless, Tara ends up embarrassing herself in front of Gavin, as you probably expected. Did we really laugh at stuff like this as high schoolers? Like, by the time I was 16, people tended to be more concerned if someone hit their head on a desk. The only people who really laugh would be friends of the person who hit their head. In the next scene, we meet Rob Lynch Adams, the stepfather of Tara, and the man who runs Slam FM. Slam FM is a radio show that's ratings are declining faster than my mental state while watching Disney Channel original movies for internet points. After forcing himself into Tara's room for some mandatory daddy-daughter bonding time, Rob gives Tara a not at all awkward talk about how her father isn't present in her life and how he's f***ing the absolute hell out of her mother. But when the music stops, Tara has no choice but to get back on the air, and Rob finds out that she's Radio Rebel. What? You mean the girl who goes to the same high school as Radio Rebel and sounds exactly like Radio Rebel even with a voice modulator is Radio Rebel? What? Wow, I'm just really shocked here. Rob then takes it upon himself to immediately hire her to Slam FM without her consent. Also, I am going to touch on this here because I really can't do it anywhere else, but the concept of Radio Rebel is indeed illegal. She doesn't have rights to any of these songs that she's playing. She literally talks for like 38 seconds and then plays licensed music, meaning we now have our second radio crime. By some unfortunate act of God, Tara, Gavin, and Stacy have all been placed in the same group for drama class. This is when we find out that Gavin and Stacy are each other's prom dates. Information that certainly will make Tara jump for joy. Tara doesn't want anyone to know she's Radio Rebel, reasonably so. But Audrey says that if Tara doesn't tell her what she's hiding, she'll start screaming bloody murder. This is because they're best friends, and best friends aren't entitled to the slightest bit of privacy. Tara does, however, hold her ground and refuses to tell Audrey. Rob makes Tara's transition to Slam FM as stress-free as possible. He does this by letting Tara know that his job and the fate of the network lies squarely on her shoulders. This scares Tara off and she goes into a break room to hide, where she meets my love interest for this episode, DJ Cami Q, played by Mercedes de la Zerda. She's a little bit weird and I'm incredibly into it. Cami quickly becomes Tara's ally at Slam FM and gives her a little pep talk to get her the motivation to get out there and work. She takes Tara to her new studio and they begin to practice for exactly 15 seconds before going live on air, but her show goes off without a hitch. She tells everyone to wear red the next day just to let everyone know that they're in it together. In what together, Radio Rebel? In what? Barry and Larry let Tara know that they're hot on the trail of figuring out exactly who Radio Rebel is. But Audrey is still quite annoyed by the fact that Tara blew her off for seemingly no reason. Seriously though, Audrey acts like she's entitled to know every single little detail of Tara's life, and it is unbelievably annoying. Eventually though, she does annoy Tara to the point where she says the thing.
I'm Radio Rebel.
So Tara lets Audrey in on it and tells her that it has to stay a secret. We cut to Tara and Gavin practicing their role for their performance, where Tara's character has a crush on Gavin's character, but Gavin's character doesn't know that. Real subtle, guys. Really going for the Oscars this year, aren't we? Like, seriously, the message is right in your face. Like, I get it, this is a Disney Channel movie, but guys, we know how this trope works. You don't literally need to explain it to us. Throughout the whole process, Stacy's being a total dictator over the entire situation. Even Gavin has to step in to tell Stacy to back the f*** off with how bad her directing is. Tara picks up a CD that Gavin left behind and plays it on the radio the next day. This is radio crime number 3, intentional theft of property. Also, she doesn't know what's on this CD. Like, yeah, I get it, he's in a band, it's safe to assume it's music, but this could be like 45 minutes of Genshin Impact characters moaning, or a collection of whale sounds, or both laid on top of each other. Who knows what this guy's into? But it ends up being Gavin's song, Turn It All Around by the G's, which is radio crime number 4, unlicensed usage of an original piece of music. Radio Rebel's challenge for her viewers for the next day is to get up and dance for no reason at all at 8 a.m. the next day. This is funny to me because it's like that one page on TikTok that gives you those random absurd missions.
Today's mission. Stand in front of a bathroom until a line forms behind you, and then just walk away.
Also, this isn't really even a joke when I'm saying this, but no high schooler is going to get up and dance at 8 a.m. Not because they lack the physical capability, but half of the high schoolers I know were either too tired, depressed, or socially aware to bother dancing in the middle of Mr. Pinkman's chemistry class at 8 a.m. Principal Marino tells everyone that it's time to stop dancing, which I agree with, because these people do not know what they're doing with their bodies. But let's just be glad that this movie didn't come out in 2017, or else they'd definitely be dabbing and flossing right now. She also advises that whoever Radio Rebel is needs to turn themselves in immediately. Because Gavin isn't a complete idiot, he quickly realizes that Tara is Radio Rebel.
You're the one who gave the CD to your stepdad to give to Radio Rebel.
Okay, never mind. He's a complete idiot. He then froths at the mouth over Radio Rebel for like 45 seconds straight, saying he could probably recognize her on the street from how well he knows her. Yeah, I seriously overestimated this guy's intelligence level, didn't I? This scene isn't important, but I'm still in love with Cammy and I want to give her screen time. But at the end of the scene, Tara does say that she's plotting something to get back at the principal. This is also the ugliest fedora I have ever seen, by the way. Yeah, seriously, that fedora it's no good. The next day, Tara and Cammy hold a little celebration outside of the school during lunch, and good lord, I'm in love with Alternative Woman. They do this because the principal is taking away everybody's iPod touches so they can't listen to Radio Rebel anymore. Also, all of these students are using their lunchtime to dance instead of eating. Seriously, there's not one plate or lunchbox in sight here. Now, technically this is legal because she is not on the school property and she does have a permit, but loud music in some states can be considered to be a public disturbance and or a nuisance, so I am going to count this as radio crime number 5. The next day, Principal Marino says that anybody who has information regarding the identity of Radio Rebel is to bring it to her immediately. This gets Stacy excited because she's a principal's pet. Principal Marino also says to Stacy that Radio Rebel is going to get expelled. Technically, I'm not sure she's allowed to do that. Technically speaking, none of the stuff that Radio Rebel does has anything to do with the school. It's just a radio station that's popular at the school. She hasn't technically done anything that goes against school policy. Like, Principal Marino says that she has, but I can't imagine what that even would be. Gavin says that he wants to use the newfound fan base of the G's to say something profound and meaningful, but Gabe says that his fans don't want a message, they just want a party. And although I don't agree with how Gabe says it, he is still right. Like, we listen to certain artists to get a certain vibe. You're not gonna go to a Young Gravy concert and then expect him to start rapping all of Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. That's not exactly what you go to a Young Gravy concert for. Obviously, I'm slightly exaggerating here, but I think you get my point. I was 10 in 2012, so I wasn't exactly tracking statistics, but is 30,000 listeners really that much? Like, don't get me wrong, that's no small amount, but they've stated earlier in this movie that they've spent millions on advertising at this point. Is that really a large enough fan base to warrant spending that much money on? Audrey tells Tara that the school has nominated Radio Rebel as prom queen, but Tara says she can't be nominated for quite a few logical reasons. Firstly, the whole point of Radio Rebel is being anonymous. Secondly, if she goes up to accept the award, the first thing that's going to happen is Principal Marino will hear it and she'll get expelled. And lastly, she doesn't really want to be prom queen, which is still a valid reason. Because contrary to how Audrey treats it, Tara's life still is her own life. Gabe thinks it's advantageous that Gavin has become friends with a girl who has connections to Slam FM. But Gavin insists that he likes Tara for her personality and not her possibilities. Wink wink. Gabe says that that's stupid and he should be using Tara for fiscal profit. Gabe has now entered late stage capitalism. At her next radio show, Tara gives a speech about fear and tells her viewers to call in and get their fears off their chests. Eventually, we get to Gavin. He says he's too afraid to do his own thing, and Tara finally has a full conversation with him for the first time. That's right, we're only 48 minutes into the movie, and our main character has already developed social skills. Can we get a round of applause for Tara real quick? Yeah? Yeah? Okay, that's enough. But then Tara goes on the roof and does this?
I'm afraid to show people the real me.
Half of the budget for this movie has to be between the editing and the drone that they took the shot with. Tara's mom forces her to go to prom, so that's weird. But I think that this scene happens to raise the stakes for the next scene, where Principal Marino announces that she's canceling prom until Radio Rebel comes forward and reveals herself. Later that day, Tara goes on air to get all the positive feedback from her many happy callers now that prom has been canceled and their afternoons have been freed. We also get some more peak editing here. To be fair, this is still better than the CGI for most of Phase 4 of the MCU. But Cammy says something that gives Tara all of the motivation that she needs to be stupid again. They have this guy in this sandwich costume distract all of these girls so that Terry and Audrey can sneak out unnoticed. The only reason that I like this scene is because it reminds me of the Dean from Community, especially that one time where he's dressed as the Payday Bar.
Barack Obama, he's scared of me. Let me clear my throat. Ha ha ha. I don't know what that was. I don't.
Radio Rebel uses the school's intercom and announces that Slam FM is throwing the school a morp. which is prom backwards, because they're turning prom upside down. Now, I don't believe this is technically illegal. However, I'm still gonna count it as radio crime number 6, unauthorized usage of mass communications technology. Yes. Yes, I did. Stacy is upset with Gavin for not wanting to get prom back in place of Morp because she's incredibly self-centered. Stacy is now also onto the fact that Tara is Radio Rebel because she's constantly missing. Sucks to say it, but she is now the most observant person in this film. She's also smart enough to know that she can't convict Tara of being Radio Rebel without any evidence. You know, that annoying thing you need to accuse someone of a crime. So she invites Tara to a party to prove that she's Radio Rebel because she can't go live at 7 p.m. and be at the party at the same time. But remember what I said about Stacy being observant? Yeah, I actually lied, because she was literally at the lunch party and that was broadcasting live at the same time too. This isn't even the first time she's managed to be in 2 places at once. But this time they just have Cammy and Mrs. Adams use audio clips in place of her. But after Mrs. Adams plays the wrong clip, she goes to manually take over the call, which works for all of about 15 seconds before someone knocks on the door of the bathroom she's hiding in. So they run around the house playing adult hide and seek. Wait a second. Yeah, that was pornography. Anyway, after hiding around the house, the call ends and Stacy finds Tara in her room, and Stacy quickly gives Tara the boot. Outside of the party, the G's begin to sing a song called We So Fly. And to be entirely honest with you, save the auto-tune being a little noticeable at times, this song is actually pretty good. Stacy spills her drink on herself and then blames it on Audrey, but Tara finally grows some lady balls and stands her ground against Princess Petty in pink and tells her to shut the f up. Good thing too, because if Tara doesn't bitch slap her, I will. The romantic tension between good-looking Gavin and titillating Tara is at an all-time high in this scene, but the movie only has 20 minutes left, so you'd be stupid to think that this actually goes anywhere. Stacy sends Kim to go spy on Tara's studio. This, kids, is Radio Crimes number 7, 8, 9, and 10. Buckle up, because this one's kind of a lot to explain. Firstly, recording someone's conversation without consent in the state of Washington is entirely illegal. That's crime number 10. Crime number 7 is impersonation, disguising herself as a pizza delivery girl to get access to something or somewhere she shouldn't have access to. Now 8 and 9 are similar, but technically different. 8 is breaking and entering, and 9 is trespassing. Whether or not these are counted as 2 separate charges in a court of law is mostly on a case-to-case basis, but because I'm complaining about a kids movie and I'm not working towards a law degree, I'm gonna count them separately. Breaking and entering is because Kim came into somewhere with the express intention of committing another crime after the fact, recording the conversation. Trespassing is straightforward, just being somewhere she isn't allowed to have access to. This makes Kim the crime MVP of this video. She doesn't have the most crimes, but getting 4 in one go is pretty impressive if you ask me. The next day, Stacy plays conservative parent simulator and forces Tara into the closet. She does this to perform in place of her for the acting project. Gavin notices Tara's missing and asks Gabe to go help him find her. Gabe says to let her go, but mind you, he is literally looking for his partner for a major assignment. This isn't even a personal thing at this point. They have a falling out here, but what I think is more important to tackle is that there are 4 members of the G's, all of which are present in this scene. However, we only know 2 of them. The other 2 are seen a lot, but they don't have any lines, and we also don't ever get their names, but it's safe to assume that they begin with a G. Stacy, for some reason, publicly announces that she'll be filling in for Tara, but at the same time the janitor lets Tara out of the closet. But apparently, because the school is 3 miles long, she can't arrive before the scene is already finished. Gavin is actually really upset by this. If it were me, I'd also be mad if I had to kiss Merritt Patterson over Debbie Ryan. Stacy now takes the time to blackmail Tara into having Radio Rebel tell her entire fan base to vote for Stacy for Morp Queen. Wow, that is a stupid list of demands. She could reach, at minimum, 30,000 people in an afternoon, and she wants Tara to make her prom queen. Personally, I would promote Nathan's SoundCloud or something. And yes, this is Radio Crime number 11, blackmailing. Gavin gets a text from Audrey and she tells him that Stacy tried to pray Tara's gay away. This upsets Gavin and he breaks up with Stacy? He says he won't go to prom with her. I mean, they weren't really ever technically a couple, so I don't know. They're just friends who don't kiss at this point. In case you're wondering where Larry and Barry have been, they have a plot line where they try to figure out who Radio Rebel is, but I haven't mentioned it because the plot goes nowhere. Seriously, in the maybe 3 or 4 scenes they have, they get no closer to figuring out who Radio Rebel actually is, and there are only 12 minutes left in this movie counting credits, so I just don't want to bother touching on it because of how unimportant it ended up being. I like their characters, but they serve no other purpose than to pad out the runtime. Also, this was my last pair of sunglasses. I hope you enjoyed that little bit. Tara shows up and surprise, she's hot now. Because apparently she wasn't being played by Debbie fucking Ryan before. Stacy is orange now and is also kind of depressingly trying to convince herself that she's still beautiful. Gabe ends up being crowned prom king. Fun fact, the movie never once mentioned the fact that he was even in the running. Radio Rebel gets called to stage, but unsurprisingly, Tara does not go up on stage. This is because it would result in her immediate expulsion. But to everyone's surprise, Radio Rebel does still end up winning prom queen. But apparently, even though she didn't plan on going on stage anyway, they had a backup plan where she gives a speech from behind the curtains and comes down onto stage to... Hold on for just a second. Seriously though, they had to have had this plan because her dad is here. Why would her dad possibly be there? She goes on stage and announces out loud that she is indeed Radio Rebel, and everyone is surprised and proud of her for this revelation. Except for this bitch. And I don't use the term lightly, but the fact that she's laughing while expelling a student. Like, we can all mutually agree that she's a right? But this starts the scene from the movie that is probably the only one that you actually remember, where everyone speaks up and announces that they are Radio Rebel. Huh. This seems awfully familiar. Also, I get the sentiment, but like, it's clearly her, right? Like, she was the first one on stage. She was also crowned as Radio Rebel. She has Radio Rebel's voice. And for some godforsaken Disney Channel original movie-ass reason, Tara crowns Stacy as prom queen. Nigga, Stacy fucking sucks! She says it's because she's finally being herself, but no, she was being herself when she cucked you from Gavin for an hour and 23 minutes. Why does she get redemption here that she doesn't deserve? Why does every main antagonist in a Disney Channel movie, who isn't an adult by the way, get a satisfying ending that they don't deserve? In this movie, it was Stacy, in Lemonade Mouth, it was Scott, and in Zombies, it was Bucky. I swear I could form a League of Evil X's with these people. Gavin gets on stage and finally sings a song with the message that he cares about. The message is that he really wants to have sex with Debbie Ryan. Oh my god, she did the face! She did the face, guys, she did the face, guys, she did the face! Gabe also gets on stage and performs with Gavin too, and I guess that's his resolution for being an asshole for the whole feature-length film. Gav Daddy goes to talk to Tara and asks her to be his date to Morp. He asks if he should call her Tara or Radio Rebel, and she says both because they're both her. But her legal name is Tara, so I would recommend calling her that one, unless Radio Rebel is her real name. I think it would be funny if Radio Rebel was like her middle name, and then he could be like, Tara Radio Rebel Adams, get your ass downstairs now! I think that would be funny. But I also don't think that Radio Rebel passes the moanable name test, so I'd just stick with Tara if I were you. And I had a lot of people point this out in my Disney Zombies video, but in Disney Channel original movies, the main characters aren't allowed to kiss until at least the second film. And you know what? I'm fine with that. That makes sense. Cause maybe it's just me, but I didn't exactly start playing tongue tackler as soon as I started dating someone in high school. So a kiss on the cheek makes sense. But I mean, in Zombies, they literally said, I love you, and then they hugged, which was certainly a little odd. But our main cast does a little ditty, and then they freeze frame because it's 2012, and the movie fades to black and ends. Wow, that movie sure did spark something in me. I too feel like I could be Radio Rebel. I might actually want to act on those feelings if this movie wasn't ass. Yeah, I'd hate to say it, but this movie kinda sucked. The only good things that I can really think to say about this movie is that some of the actors like Adam DeMarco and Debbie Ryan are pretty good at their roles. I also do think that the original score for this movie, not the soundtrack, but the background music, was actually pretty good. I do actually think it was good at enhancing a few of the scenes that it was in. Other than that, I really got nothing though. This movie had like 15 original tracks, but wow, are these not great. The best of these is like a 7 out of 10. I remember liking We Got the Beat, but a lot more of these songs are just the definition of mediocre. mediocre. The sets in this movie range from downright stupid, specifically the example that I gave with the theater classroom, to uninteresting. Camera work, it's a Disney Channel movie, I'm not even gonna bother at this point. The only thing that's worth mentioning is that one shot of Tara on the roof, and that was a bad shot. I don't think that was a good shot, nor was it necessary. I'm running into the same problem that I had with Lemonade Mouth, where I don't think there's much point in covering everything here. Everything across the board that I have not mentioned already is a solid 5 out of 10. I will say though, however, this movie is actually pretty fun. I actually did find this movie to be both funny ironically and in the ways that the movie intended it to be. This movie wasn't hilarious, but damn, it was cheesy as f, and oh boy, do I love that. Although I can't ever say I'd ever mindlessly turn on this movie and watch it unless I was in the mood to admire Cammy Q some more. So you know what? I'm feeling a solid 6.5 out of 10 for the fun score. Not amazing, but not terrible. The movie's only an hour and a half long, so it's a pretty okay way to spend it. But for the critical score, yeah, easy 4 out of 10. This movie is so wildly bland. I imagine this concept worked better in book form, but it just feels like they gave Olivia from Lemonade Mouth her own movie, and I didn't think I'd ever need to say this, but Olivia isn't an interesting enough character to warrant her own movie. This movie also has 2 secondary characters that literally don't matter at all, and I haven't seen that in any other Disney Channel movie. Like, there is a solid 5 minutes of these characters alone, just trying to figure out who Radio Rebel is, but like I said, it doesn't matter. These two don't have one single line of dialogue that means anything. I knew this movie was bad going into it. It's why I bothered to watch it, but wow, was this just kind of disappointing. This movie's existence is genuinely pointless. Before you go, I really do just want to thank you guys so much for a second. I made a community post a while back when I hit 5,000 subscribers. As of the time I'm recording this, that was a week ago I was at 5,000 subscribers, and now I'm at 6,000. I woke up to 6,000 this morning, and that is insane. My goal for when I started YouTubing this year was to hit 1,000 subscribers by June. At this point, I'm going to hit 10,000 by May, and I seriously can't thank you guys enough. This has been something that I've been wanting to do since I don't even know how young I was, but I've wanted to be a YouTuber forever. So I really want to say thank you guys so much for that. Please, if you like this video, like, subscribe, share, help me grow. I really want to keep doing this, hopefully maybe even as a full-time gig for you guys. I don't know. I just love this. Obligatory thing where I promote my socials goes here. Join the Discord. It's fun. There are people. That's what we have. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter because I'm silly on Twitter, and because on Instagram, the bigger the number gets, the happier my brain is. And as always, leave a comment for a video you'd like to see in the future. I'm gonna do Sky High next week and then Descendants the week after that. I do have so many people in my comments telling me to do the entire Zombies franchise, and I will. I do want to cover the entire Descendants and Zombies franchise at some point. I just think it's really fun, and so many people have asked for it, and I feel like it would just be kind of unfair to you guys to not do them at this point. But feel free to leave suggestions if there's anything you do want, because literally the reason I'm doing Sky High is because someone DM'd me asking for Sky High, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do Sky High. I mean, I took the poll, but then everyone answered Sky High anyway, so it kind of seemed inevitable at that point. Last thing I want to touch on, I don't really want to box myself into doing Disney Channel original movies. Don't get me wrong, I love doing them, and I probably will keep doing them for a while. I'm just saying, feel free to recommend things that aren't Disney Channel original movies. I just feel like there's a lot of channels that do that at this point, and I don't really want to trap myself into doing just that. But anyway, thank you guys so much. I really can't thank you enough. Kennedy, Nathan, and I are gonna get straight to work on next week's video, so we will see you guys then. Say goodbye, guys. Yeah, that's the best you're gonna get out of Kennedy. I'll see you guys later.